When a billionaire's truck dies on a dirt road, he has no idea the broken tractor ahead will save his life. Nathan Cole had everything money could buy, except the one thing that mattered. Standing in the dust of a failing farm, watching a woman fight a machine twice her size. He made a choice that would destroy his old life and build something he never knew he needed. But when the truth came out, when the storms hit, when enemies struck from the shadows, would the foundation they built be strong enough to hold? Stay until the end. Like and comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. The Ford's engine didn't sputter or cough. It just died. Nathan Cole sat in the sudden silence, hand still gripping the wheel, staring through the dust-covered windshield at absolutely nothing. No gas station, no houses, just Nebraska dirt stretching in every direction under a sky going orange at the edges. He tried the ignition. Click, click. Nothing. Perfect, he said to no one. He pulled out his phone. No signal. Of course not. He'd been driving for 6 hours, trying to outrun thoughts that followed him anyway, and now he was stuck on a road that probably didn't have a name. Nathan stepped out. The heat hit him first, dry and thick. His dress shoes, Italian leather, probably cost more than most people made in a week, sank slightly into the dirt. He looked down at them and almost laughed. 3 days ago, he'd been in a boardroom in Manhattan. Now he was standing in the middle of nowhere wearing a suit that cost $8,000, and none of it mattered because his truck was dead and his son was 1,000 miles away, living with his ex-wife because Nathan couldn't figure out how to be a father and a CEO at the same time. He popped the hood, stared at the engine like it might explain itself. He knew about profit margins and hostile takeovers. He didn't know why a Ford F-150 would just quit. That's when he heard it. Metal on metal, rhythmic, angry. He looked up. Half a mile down the road, maybe less, something red stood against the brown landscape. A tractor. And someone was hitting it. Nathan grabbed his jacket from the truck and started walking. His shoes kicked up dust with each step. The sun was dropping fast now, turning everything gold and shadow. The sound got louder, steady, determined banging that echoed across the empty fields. As he got closer, he could see her. A woman in mud-stained jeans and a gray tank top, dark hair pulled back in a messy knot, standing on the tractor's wheel hub and beating the engine housing with a wrench. Not tapping, not tinkering. Full force swings like she was trying to kill it. Son of a... Bang. Worthless piece of... Bang. Just work. The wrench slipped from her hand, clattered against metal, and fell into the dirt. She sagged against the tractor, forehead pressed to the hot metal, shoulders shaking. Nathan stopped a few yards away. That helping? She spun around so fast she nearly fell. Her hand went to her hip, instinct looking for something that wasn't there, and her eyes locked on him with the kind of suspicion you only get from living alone in the middle of nowhere. Who the hell are you? Nathan. He raised his hand slightly. My truck died about half a mile back. Heard you working. She didn't relax. Her eyes traveled from his face to his shoes to his clearly out-of-place clothes. You lost? Apparently. She studied him for a long moment. 30, maybe? Younger than him by a couple years. Tired in a way that went deeper than one bad day. Dirt streaked across her collarbone. Hands rough and scarred. Eyes that had stopped expecting help from anyone. Can't help you, she said finally. Got my own problems. She dropped from the tractor, grabbed the wrench, and went back to hitting things. Nathan should have walked away. Should have started the long hike to wherever civilization was hiding. Instead, he moved closer. What's wrong with it? Everything. Bang. Fuel lines clogged, injectors probably shot, and the whole damn thing is 40 years old. Bang. My dad kept it running with spit and prayer. I've only got the spit. Let me look. She stopped, turned to face him fully. Why? Good question. Nathan didn't have a good answer. Maybe because fixing something felt better than standing still. Maybe because her frustration was something he recognized, even if the cause was different. I'm good with engines, he said, which wasn't exactly true, but he'd rebuilt a classic Mustang in college when he still had time for things like that. You're wearing a suit. I'll take it off. She laughed, short and sharp and bitter. You think this is funny? You think I'm out here at sunset beating on a tractor for fun? No. He met her eyes. I think you're desperate. I think something's broken and you don't know how to fix it and you're running out of time. I know what that feels like. The words came out rawer than he'd intended. She must have heard it because her expression shifted. Not softening exactly, just reassessing. You a mechanic? No. Farmer? No. Then what are you? Nathan looked at his ridiculous shoes, his expensive suit, the gold watch on his wrist that cost more than her tractor was worth. Right now, stranded. She considered this. The sun was almost gone now. In another 20 minutes it would be dark. You fix it, she said slowly. I'll give you a meal and a place to sleep. That's it. Then you're gone in the morning. Deal. She didn't offer her hand, just grabbed a toolbox from the tractor's bed and dropped it in the dirt with a heavy thud. Elena Hart, this is my land. You steal anything, I've got a shotgun in the house, and I know how to use it. Noted. Nathan shrugged off his jacket, unknotted his tie, rolled up his sleeves. The shirt would be ruined. He didn't care. Elena watched him like she was waiting for him to realize what he'd signed up for and back out. He climbed onto the tractor and looked at the engine. It was worse than she'd described. Rust, grime, parts held together with wire and luck. He could see 3 problems immediately and probably a dozen more hiding underneath. Hand me a socket wrench. She did. Their fingers didn't touch. For the next hour, they worked in silence. Nathan took apart what needed taking apart. Elena handed him tools without being asked, anticipating what he'd need next in a way that spoke of countless hours doing this alone. The light faded. She brought out a battery-powered work lamp that flickered every few minutes. Fuel filter's shot, Nathan said finally. Injector's not much better. You have replacements? No money for replacements. What about parts, old equipment, maybe something? Sold it. Her voice was flat. Sold everything that wasn't nailed down. This tractor's the last piece that still runs. Or did. Nathan sat back on his heels. His hands were black with grease. His shirt was destroyed. He looked at Elena in the weak lamplight and saw someone hanging on by her fingernails. What are you growing? He asked. Corn, soybeans, trying to. She kicked the tractor tire. Had a contract, good one. Would have cleared my debt, maybe even made a profit. But the planting's behind because nothing works right, and if I can't get the seeds in the ground in the next week, I lose everything. Everything? The farm, the house, all of it. She said it like she was reading a grocery list, like she'd already accepted it. Bank's been patient. Dad took out loans he couldn't pay back before he died. I've been trying to catch up for 2 years, but... She gestured at the broken tractor. Universe has other plans. Nathan looked out at the dark fields. Hundreds of acres, probably. Rich soil, good land, worth millions if it was near any kind of development. But out here, just dirt and debt. There's a parts dealer about 40 miles north, he said. I saw signs on the highway. I could drive there tomorrow. With what? Your dead truck? She shook her head. Look, I appreciate the effort, but this thing's done. I'll call someone in the morning, see if they'll come out. Probably costs more than it's worth to fix, but what choice do I have? She started gathering tools. Case closed. Nathan should have let it go. Should have asked about that meal and a place to sleep, then hiked out at first light. Instead, he said, I'll stay. Elena stopped. What? I'll stay. Fix what I can. Help you plant. You don't know anything about farming. I can learn. Why? She turned to face him fully, suspicion flooding back. Why would you do that? You don't know me. This isn't your problem. Because I need to fix something. Because my son's growing up without me and I don't know how to stop it. Because I've spent 10 years building an empire and I've never felt more useless than I do right now, standing in the dirt next to a woman who's fighting for something real. Because you need help, he said simply, and I've got nowhere else to be. It was maybe the most honest thing he'd said in years. Elena stared at him for a long moment, looking for the catch, the angle, the ulterior motive. Nathan kept his expression neutral, letting her search. Finally, she said, You sleep in the barn. You work, you eat, you don't work, you leave. And if I find out you're some kind of psycho, I really do have a shotgun. Fair enough. She picked up the toolbox and started walking toward a farmhouse barely visible in the darkness. Nathan followed, his ruined shoes crunching on gravel. The house was small, white paint peeling in long strips, porch sagging on one side. Inside, through the windows, he could see warm light. Simple, clean, nothing like the penthouse he'd left behind in New York. Elena stopped at the porch steps, didn't invite him up. "There's a bathroom in the barn," she said. "Water's cold, but it works. I'll bring food in 20 minutes. Thank you." She nodded once and went inside. The screen door banged shut behind her. Nathan stood alone in the dark, looking at his hands, black with grease and rust. He'd signed a $100 million deal last month with cleaner hands. He turned and walked toward the barn, a dark shape against the darker sky. Inside it smelled like hay and old wood and machine oil. He found the bathroom, barely more than a closet with a sink and toilet. The water ran brown for a few seconds before clearing. He scrubbed his hands and arms, watching the dirt spiral down the drain. In the cracked mirror above the sink, he barely recognized himself. Stubble, tired eyes, shirt collar open, sleeves destroyed. He looked like someone who'd been in a fight. Maybe he had been, just not the kind with fists. A sound made him turn. Elena stood in the barn doorway holding a plate and a bottle of water. She set them on a workbench without coming closer. "Sandwich and some vegetables. It's not much." "It's perfect." She lingered, like she wanted to say something but didn't know how. "I wasn't always like this," she said finally. "Desperate, broke. My dad, he was a good farmer, good man, but he made some bad deals at the end, trusted the wrong people. By the time he died, the debt was..." She trailed off. "I thought I could fix it, thought if I just worked hard enough, smart enough, I could save what he built. But everything keeps breaking. Everything costs money I don't have, and the harder I try, the worse it gets." Nathan picked up the sandwich, turkey and cheese on wheat bread. Probably the simplest meal he'd eaten in 10 years. "Who's your neighbor?" Her expression darkened. "Why?" "You said your dad trusted the wrong people." Elena crossed her arms. "Marcus Vance owns the spread west of here, 3 times the size of this place. He's been buying up land around here for years. Made my dad a few offers before he died. Low offers, insulting ones. Dad told him no every time." "And you?" "He made me one offer, after the funeral. Said he'd take the debt, give me enough to start over somewhere else. When I said no, he stopped pretending to be neighborly." "You think he's sabotaging you?" She didn't answer right away, just stared out at the dark fields. "Machinery breaks. That's farming. Could just be bad luck. But you don't think so." "I don't know what to think anymore." She turned to leave, then stopped. "Why are you really here, Nathan? Nobody drives through on this road by accident. You running from something." "Yes. Just needed some distance from my life." "That's not an answer." "It's the only one I've got." She studied him one more time, then nodded. "Barn door locks from the inside. I'll wake you at sunrise. We've got work to do." She left. Nathan listened to her footsteps fade across the gravel. He ate the sandwich slowly, looking around at the barn. Tools hung on walls. An ancient workbench covered in sawdust. In the corner, a pile of hay bales with a tarp thrown over them. His bed for the night. He finished the water and lay down on the tarp. It smelled like dust in summer. Through the gaps in the barn walls, he could see stars. More than he'd ever seen in New York. More than he'd seen anywhere. His phone buzzed. Signal finally. Messages flooded in. His assistant, his board members, his lawyer. All needing decisions. All urgent. And one from his ex-wife. "Evan asked about you today." I didn't know what to tell him. Nathan stared at the message. Evan, 7 years old, loved dinosaurs and baseball and asked questions Nathan never had time to answer. How do you tell a 7-year-old that his father chose a boardroom over birthday parties? That building an empire was supposed to mean something but just felt empty? He turned off the phone and set it on the ground beside him. Somewhere in the darkness, an owl called. The barn settled with small creaks and groans. Nathan closed his eyes and for the first time in months, fell asleep without thinking about profit margins or quarterly reports or all the ways he was failing at everything that mattered. When Elena shook his shoulder, the barn was still dark. "Up," she said. "Sun's in an hour. We need to move that tractor to the shed before it gets hot." Nathan blinked awake. His back hurt from the hard ground. His hands were stiff. Elena was already walking away, flashlight beam cutting through the pre-dawn darkness. He stood, joints protesting, and followed. The tractor looked even worse in the weak light. Elena had a chain hooked to the front, attached to her pickup, a Chevy that had probably been red 20 years ago. "You steer, I'll pull," she said. Nathan climbed into the tractor seat. The metal was cold. Elena got in her truck and started it. The engine roared to life on the first try, which somehow made the tractor's failure worse. The chain went tight. The tractor didn't move. Elena gave it more gas. The chain strained. The tractor's wheels finally broke free from the dirt, and it rolled forward, slow and stubborn. They got it to a shed behind the barn. Elena killed her engine and got out, wiping sweat from her forehead, even though the sun wasn't up yet. "We'll work on it later. Right now we need to check the irrigation system on the South 40. It's been running weird." "What's weird mean?" "Half the field's flooding, other half's dry. Probably a break in the line." They took her truck. Nathan watched the landscape lighten as they drove. Flat land, neat rows of young corn just starting to push through the soil. It should have been peaceful. Instead, it felt fragile, like one strong wind could erase all of it. Elena parked at the edge of a field. They walked in, boots sinking into mud that hadn't been there yesterday. Water pooled in uneven patches, drowning seedlings that would never mature. "There," Elena pointed. 20 feet ahead, water gushed from a crack in a PVC pipe. Not a clean break. A split, like something had hit it hard. Nathan knelt beside it. The edges of the crack were rough, fresh. "This happened overnight?" "Must have. It was fine 2 days ago." He ran his finger along the pipe, found another crack 6 feet down. Then another. All fresh. All impact damage. Not wear and tear. "Elena?" "What?" "This didn't break on its own. Something hit these pipes, multiple times." She came closer, looked where he was pointing. Her face went hard. "Could have been deer, or equipment passing over." "You drive equipment over your irrigation lines?" "No." "Then it wasn't deer." They stared at each other. The sun finally broke over the horizon, turning everything gold. In good light, the damage was obvious, deliberate. "Marcus," Elena said quietly. "You sure?" "Who else?" She kicked the pipe. Water splashed. "He wants me to fail, wants me desperate enough to sell, but this," she gestured at the flooded field, "this is $1,000 in lost seedlings, plus parts I can't afford to fix the line, plus time I don't have." Nathan stood. "You have tools in the truck?" "Why?" "Because we're going to fix it." "With what money?" "Do you have PVC pipe?" "Some. In the barn, left over from when my dad. Then we use that. Patch what we can. Work with what you have." Elena laughed, that same bitter sound from yesterday. "You think it's that simple? Just patch and move on?" "No, I think it's going to be hard and probably won't work perfectly and we'll have to improvise, but standing here isn't fixing anything." She looked at him like she was trying to figure out if he was for real or just naive. Maybe both. Finally, she sighed. "Let's get the pipe." They worked through the morning, cut out damaged sections, fitted new pieces. Elena knew exactly what to do. Her hands moved fast and certain, measuring and cutting and sealing. Nathan followed her lead, learning as they went. The sun climbed. Heat pressed down. Sweat soaked through Nathan's borrowed work shirt. Elena had given him one of her dad's old ones, faded blue and soft from 100 washings. "Pass me the cement," Elena said. Nathan handed her the can of PVC cement. She brushed it onto a joint, fitted the pipe together, held it for 30 seconds. "My dad used to say farming was just problem-solving in dirt," she said, not looking at Nathan. "Something breaks, you fix it. Crop fails, you plant another. Weather turns bad, you adapt." He made it sound simple. It's not. "No." She let go of the pipe, tested the seal. It held. "He also said the land takes care of you if you take care of it. But I've been taking care of it for 2 years and all it does is take." "Maybe it takes time." "I don't have time. Bank inspections in 2 weeks. If they don't see progress, functioning equipment, healthy crops, some kind of profit potential, they'll foreclose. Marcus probably knows that. Probably timed all this sabotage to hit right before the inspection." Nathan grabbed another section of pipe. "So we make progress." "We? You got anyone else offering to help?" Elena looked at him. really looked at him, seen past the stranger who'd shown up yesterday to… What? Nathan wasn't sure. He wasn't sure what he was doing here either. No, she said finally. I don't. They finished the repair by noon. Water flowed the right direction. The flooding stopped. Half the field was still ruined, but half might survive. Elena stood in the mud, hands on her hips, surveying the damage. 20 acres lost, maybe more. What about the rest? Depends on weather, pests, luck. She wiped her forehead with her arm. Come on, let's eat. Back at the house, Elena made sandwiches. Same turkey and cheese as last night. They ate on the porch, looking out at fields that stretched to the horizon. You never said where you were going, Elena said. Before your truck died. Nowhere, everywhere. Away. From? Nathan took a bite. Chewed, swallowed. My ex-wife called 3 months ago, said our son barely remembers me. He's 7. I've missed 2 birthdays. 4 parent-teacher conferences. Didn't even know he'd started playing baseball until she sent me a picture of him in a uniform. He set down the sandwich. I'm worth more money than I'll ever spend. I employ 3,000 people. I broker deals that move markets. And I can't remember the last time I tucked my kid into bed. Elena didn't say anything, just listened. So I left, Nathan continued. Told my assistant I needed a few days, got in the truck and drove. Thought maybe if I got far enough away from my life, I'd figure out how to fix it. He laughed without humor. Then the truck died. Turns out running doesn't fix anything. No, Elena said quietly. It doesn't. They sat in silence. A breeze moved through the fields, making the young corn rustle. My dad died 18 months ago, Elena said finally. Heart attack. Dropped right there in that field. She pointed north. I found him at sunset. Still warm. Still… She stopped. Started again. I wasn't a farmer. I was a teacher. 3rd grade, loved it. Had my own apartment in town, my own life. But he left me this, and I couldn't just let it go. Couldn't let his whole life just disappear because he made some bad choices at the end. So you gave up teaching. Gave up everything. Apartment, friends, guy I was dating, all of it. Thought I'd save the farm, honor his memory, maybe find some purpose in the dirt. She shook her head. Turns out I'm not good at this. Not like he was. I make mistakes. Everything costs more than I think. And every day I'm further behind. You're still here. Barely. But you're fighting. That counts. Elena looked at him. Does it? Because from where I'm sitting, fighting just means drowning slower. Nathan didn't have an answer for that. They finished eating in silence. That afternoon, they worked on the tractor. Nathan had ordered parts from his phone, using a credit card that would never show up on Elena's radar, and had them shipped overnight to a hardware store 40 miles north. He'd told Elena he'd called in a favor from a friend. She'd been too tired to question it. The parts arrived late afternoon. They installed them as the sun angled low. The injector, the fuel filter, a dozen small things that added up. When Nathan finally turned the key, the engine coughed, sputtered, caught. It ran. Elena stood frozen, listening to the rumble of the engine like it was a symphony. Then she laughed, a real laugh, surprised and relieved and almost painful. It works, she said. It actually works. Nathan climbed down. Oil streaked his arms. His borrowed shirt was ruined. He'd never felt better. We can start planting tomorrow, Elena said. She was smiling, actually smiling. If we push hard, we might get everything in before the inspection. We might actually… The engine died. The silence hit like a punch. Elena's smile disappeared. No, 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 no! Nathan climbed back up, turned the key. Nothing. He checked the fuel line, the injector, everything they'd just fixed. It's not the parts, he said. It's the starter. Must have burned out when we tested it. Elena sat down in the dirt. Just sat. Dropped like someone had cut her strings. Of course it did, she said to no one. Of course. Nathan climbed down, sat beside her. We'll fix it. With what? Her voice cracked. I'm out of money. Out of favors. Out of luck. That starter costs $200 I don't have, and even if I did, it would take 3 days to ship, and I don't have 3 days. I can… What? Magic up money? You've already done more than… She stopped, looked at him. Why? Why are you doing this? Because you remind me that some things are worth fighting for. Because your father built something real, and you're trying to save it, and that matters more than any deal I've ever made. Because my son doesn't know me, and maybe, if I can help you save your family's legacy, it'll mean I'm not completely useless as a human being. Because I want to, Nathan said. Elena held his gaze, searching for lies, for angles, for whatever game he must be playing. She wouldn't find one. Nathan didn't know what he was doing here, didn't know why this broken farm and this exhausted woman mattered to him. He just knew they did. There's a junkyard, Elena said slowly, about 60 miles south. Guy there, Rusty, which is actually his name, he might have a starter that'll work. But I can't afford. I'll go, first thing tomorrow. Nathan, I'll go. You start working the fields we can still save. We'll make this work. Elena looked like she wanted to argue. Instead, she just nodded. Tired. So tired. They walked back to the house as the last light faded. Elena went inside. Nathan headed to the barn. He lay on his tarp bed and pulled out his phone. 17 missed calls, 43 emails. His assistant had sent 6 texts ranging from concerned to panicked. He typed one message, taking a few more days. Handle what you can. Trust your judgment. Then he turned off the phone and closed his eyes. Outside, the wind picked up. It rattled the barn walls and whispered through the fields. Nathan listened to it and thought about his son, about boardrooms and balance sheets, about a woman who'd lost everything trying to save her father's dream. He didn't have answers, didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but for the first time in years, he was exactly where he needed to be, even if he didn't understand why yet. Nathan left before dawn, while the stars were still bright enough to navigate by. Elena had drawn him a map on the back of a feed store receipt. 60 miles south, then west on County Road 7, look for the sign that said Rusty's Salvage, but half the letters were missing, so it really just said Rue Ties Salvage. The borrowed truck, Elena's Chevy, rattled like it might shake apart at 50 miles per hour. Nathan kept it at 45 and watched the sun come up in his rearview mirror. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He ignored it. Rusty's Salvage turned out to be 15 acres of rusted metal and broken dreams surrounded by a chain-link fence that leaned at dangerous angles. The sign was exactly as advertised. Nathan parked next to a Buick that was mostly weeds now and walked toward a trailer that served as an office. A man emerged before Nathan reached the steps. 70, maybe older. Grease-stained overalls and a baseball cap so faded the logo had become abstract art. Help you? Looking for a starter. For a Massey Ferguson tractor. 1985. Rusty scratched his chin. Might have one. Might not. Who's asking? Nathan. I'm working Elena Hart's place. Something shifted in the old man's expression. Elena sent you? Yeah. How's she doing? Hanging on. Rusty nodded slowly. Her daddy was a good man. Made some mistakes, but good man. Come on. He led Nathan into the maze of salvaged vehicles and equipment. They passed school buses and combines, tractors and cars, all slowly being reclaimed by rust and prairie grass. Here! Rusty stopped at a tractor that looked like it had been red once. He climbed up, opened a panel, started removing bolts with practiced ease. This'll work. Same model, year older, but compatible. How much? For Elena? Rusty pulled the starter free, examined it, blew dust off the connections. $40. Nathan knew that part cost $200 new, probably $100 used anywhere else. That's generous. Her daddy helped me out once. Bad year. Loaned me money when the bank wouldn't. Never asked for it back. Rusty climbed down, starter in hand. Least I can do is help his daughter keep the land he loved. They walked back to the trailer. Rusty wrapped the starter in an old towel and handed it over. Nathan pulled out his wallet. You're not local, Rusty said. Not a question. No. Just passing through? Nathan thought about that. About his penthouse in Manhattan and his son in Connecticut and the life he'd built that felt more like a prison every day. Something like that. Rusty took the $40. Elena's got a target on her back. Marcus Vance has been circling that property like a vulture. She tell you that? She mentioned it. Mentioned? Rusty snorted. That man's been making her life hell for 2 years. Machinery breaks at convenient times. Contracts fall through. Supply deliveries get lost. Can't prove it's him, but everybody knows. Why does he want the land so bad? Water rights. Elena's property sits on top of one of the best aquifers in the county. Marcus owns everything around it, but without that water access, his operation's limited. He gets Elena's land, he can irrigate another 1,000 acres. That's millions of dollars over time. Nathan felt something cold settle in his stomach. And the bank inspection? 2 weeks, I heard. If she can't show the farm's viable, they'll foreclose. Marcus will buy it at auction for pennies on the dollar. Rusty met Nathan's eyes. You seem like a decent guy. Just so you know what you're walking into. Nathan carried the starter back to the truck. Started the long drive home. Home. When had he started thinking of Elena's farm as home? His phone buzzed again. This time he looked. 12 missed calls from his assistant, 3 from his lawyer, 1 from his ex-wife, and a text from a number he didn't recognize. You can't hide forever. M. Marcus. Somehow, Marcus knew about him. Nathan deleted the message and drove faster. He got back to the farm just after noon. Elena was in the north field on her hands and knees, pulling weeds from around corn seedlings. She looked up when she heard the truck, shielded her eyes against the sun. Nathan held up the starter. Her face broke into something that wasn't quite a smile but was close. Relief, maybe. Hope. $40, Nathan said. Rusty says hi. Elena stood, brushed dirt from her jeans. Rusty's a good man. He said the same about your father. Something passed across her face. Pain, maybe. Or pride. Hard to tell. They installed the starter together. Nathan's hands had calluses now, rough patches on his palms from 2 days of real work. The tractor fought them, bolts stripped, connections corroded, but they forced it together through stubbornness and profanity. When Nathan turned the key this time, the engine caught and held. Elena listened to it run for a full minute before she spoke. We can plant tomorrow. We can plant now. You know how to run a tractor? I'll learn. She almost smiled again. You say that a lot. Haven't been wrong yet. That afternoon, Elena taught him. Showed him the controls, the rhythm, the pattern of planting. How to read the soil and gauge the depth and keep the rows straight. Nathan had negotiated billion-dollar acquisitions with less focus than he gave to driving that tractor in precise lines across the field. He made mistakes. Planted too shallow in one section, too deep in another. Elena walked behind him for the first hour, checking his work, correcting without judgment. You're getting it, she called over the engine noise. Nathan looked back. She was covered in dust, hair escaping from her ponytail, but she was smiling, actually smiling. He turned back to the field and kept going. They worked until the light failed. Nathan's back screamed, his hands were numb from the vibration of the tractor. He'd never been more exhausted or more satisfied. Elena made dinner, pasta with vegetables from a garden he hadn't noticed before. They ate on the porch again, too tired to talk much. You didn't have to stay, Elena said finally. The starter's in. Tractor runs. You could leave in the morning. Is that what you want? She looked at her plate. I don't know what I want anymore. I wanted to save this place. Wanted to prove I could do what my dad did. But every day it gets harder. Every day I feel more like I'm drowning. Then why keep fighting? Because quitting means Marcus wins. Means everything my dad built just disappears. Means I failed. She set down her fork. You really not going to tell me who you are? I told you, Nathan. Nathan, who works in a suit and drives a $50,000 truck and orders tractor parts overnight without blinking. Nathan had been wondering when she'd put it together. The truck was my father's. The suit was for a funeral. The parts. He trailed off. Lying felt wrong now. I called in a favor. That's still not an answer. It's the one you're getting. Elena studied him. You running from the law? No. From a woman? Ex-wife. But not how you think. Then how? Nathan set down his own fork, looked out at the dark fields. I built something I thought mattered. Company. Empire. Proof that I'd made something of myself. Took 20 years and more hours than I can count. Made more money than 3 generations could spend. He paused. But somewhere in all that building, I forgot what it was for. forgot to be a father, forgot to be a person. And now I've got everything I thought I wanted and nothing that actually matters. So you came here. Truck broke down here. I stayed because, he struggled for words. Because this feels real. Your fight, this land. It's real in a way my life hasn't been for years. Elena was quiet for a long moment. That's the saddest thing I've heard in a while. Yeah. But at least you're honest about it. They cleaned up in silence. Elena went inside. Nathan walked to the barn, but instead of going in, he walked out to the field they'd planted today. The soil was dark and rich. Somewhere under the surface, seeds were already beginning their slow transformation. He thought about his son, Evan. 7 years old and learning to be a person without a father's guidance. What would Nathan even say to him if he called? How do you explain absence to a child? His phone buzzed. Another text from the unknown number. Having fun playing farmer? Come see me tomorrow. We should talk. Address attached. M. Nathan stared at the message. Marcus wanted a meeting. That meant Marcus saw him as a threat, or an opportunity. He should tell Elena, should warn her that her neighbor was escalating. Instead, he deleted the message and went to bed. Some decisions could wait until morning. The next 5 days blurred together in a rhythm of work and exhaustion. They planted from sunrise to sunset. Nathan learned to read the weather, to feel when rain was coming by the weight of the air. Elena taught him about crop rotation and soil pH and 1,000 other details that separated farmers who survived from those who didn't. They didn't talk much. The work was too demanding, too consuming, but they developed a language of gestures and glances. Nathan would look up from the tractor and find Elena watching to make sure he hadn't screwed up the row spacing. She'd stumble in exhaustion, and Nathan would be there to steady her without either of them acknowledging it. On the third day, Nathan noticed the fence along the eastern property line had been cut. Fresh cuts, clean wire ends. Elena. She came over, saw what he was seeing. Her jaw tightened. That wasn't there yesterday. You sure? I checked this fence 2 days ago. It was fine. They followed the fence line, found 3 more cuts. Cattle from Marcus's property could walk right through now. If they got into Elena's planted fields. He's not even being subtle anymore, Elena said. Her voice was flat. Dead. Nathan pulled out his phone. Took pictures of every cut. We need to report this. To who? Sheriff's 60 miles away and he's Marcus's cousin. You think he'll do anything? We can't just let him fix the fence. That's what we can do. Fix it and keep going. They spent the afternoon repairing cuts. Nathan bought new wire from town, using his credit card again, covering his tracks, and they strung it tight. By sunset, the fence was solid again, but the message was clear. Marcus could strike whenever he wanted, and there was nothing they could do to stop him. That night, Elena didn't come out with dinner. Nathan waited on the porch, then went to the house and knocked. I'm fine, she called. Not hungry? Elena? Just leave it, Nathan. He stood there for a moment, hand on the door, wanting to push but knowing he had no right. Finally, he walked back to the barn. Couldn't sleep. Lay on his tarp and stared at the ceiling and thought about Marcus Vance. About men who took what they wanted because they could. About systems that protected the powerful and crushed everyone else. He'd been one of those men once. Maybe still was. How many small companies had he acquired and dismantled? How many people had lost their jobs because Nathan saw profit in consolidation? The difference was he'd told himself it was just business. Nothing personal. The market rewarded efficiency. Out here, business had a face, had a name, had hands that bled from fence wire and eyes that had stopped expecting help from anyone. Nathan pulled out his phone, typed a message to his assistant. Need background on Marcus Vance, Nebraska, owns land in Jefferson County. Everything you can find. Quiet. The response came back in minutes. On it. Nathan turned off the phone and closed his eyes. The information arrived the next morning. Nathan's assistant had worked through the night, 30 pages of documents, financial records, property deeds, legal filings. Nathan read it all before Elena woke up. Marcus Vance was worse than he'd thought. 3 different families had sold their land to him in the past decade. Each one had faced the same pattern: equipment failures, mysterious crop diseases, accidents that weren't quite provable. One farmer had ended up in the hospital after his combine's brake line failed. Another had lost his entire season to a grain silo fire that investigators called suspicious but inconclusive. And every time, Marcus had been there to buy the land for below market value. Nathan was still reading when Elena knocked on the barn door. "You up?" He closed his laptop. "Yeah." She came in carrying 2 mugs of coffee, set one on the workbench next to him. "Couldn't sleep either?" "Not really." Elena saw the laptop. "What's that?" Nathan made a decision. No more half-truths. "Research on Marcus Vance." Her expression went cold. "Why?" "Because I wanted to know who we're dealing with." "We?" She set down her own coffee hard enough that it sloshed. "There's no we, Nathan. This is my fight, my problem. You're just passing through, remember? That's not fair." "Fair?" She laughed without humor. "You show up out of nowhere, work for free, fix things I can't afford to fix. And you think I don't wonder why? You think I don't lie awake trying to figure out what you're really after?" "I'm not after anything. Everyone's after something." She crossed her arms. "So what is it? You want the land? Want to be a hero? Want to feel better about whatever you're running from?" The words landed like punches. Nathan stood. "I'm trying to help." "I don't need your help. I need—" Her voice cracked. "I need to do this myself. Need to prove I can save this place without someone swooping in to rescue me." "That's not what I'm doing." "Then what are you doing? Because from where I'm standing, you're some rich guy playing farmer to feel better about his real life, and when you get bored or things get too real, you'll leave, just like everyone else." Nathan felt anger flash hot in his chest. "You want me to leave? Fine. Say it." Elena opened her mouth, closed it, looked away. "That's what I thought," Nathan said. "You don't understand." "Then explain it to me." "I can't." The words burst out of her. "I can't explain why it matters so much that I do this alone. Can't explain why every time you fix something I feel grateful and furious at the same time. Can't explain why having you here makes everything harder and easier, and I don't know which one I hate more." They stood in the barn's dim light, breathing hard, the air between them electric with things neither could say. Finally, Elena spoke, quieter now. "My dad spent 30 years on this land, built it from nothing, and at the end he couldn't hold on, couldn't save it. I watched him die knowing he'd failed." She looked at Nathan. "I can't fail too. Can't let someone else save what I should have saved myself. That's not how this works." "How would you know?" "Because I've been on both sides." Nathan's voice was rough. "I've built things alone and lost what mattered. I've pushed people away because I thought needing help meant weakness. And it cost me everything that actually counts." "Like what?" "Like my son growing up without me. Like missing so much of his life that he barely knows my voice. Like realizing too late that all the success in the world doesn't mean anything if you're alone." Elena's expression shifted. "You have a son? Evan, 7, lives with his mother in Connecticut. I see him maybe once a month. Less lately." Nathan sat back down. "I told myself I was building something for him, for his future. But really, I was just building, just working. And now I've got this empire and no idea who my own kid is." The anger drained out of Elena. She sat on a hay bale across from him. "Is that why you're here? Trying to make up for lost time by saving my farm?" "Maybe. I don't know. Maybe I'm just tired of failing at things that matter." They sat in silence. Outside, morning birds started their chorus. "I'm sorry," Elena said finally, "for what I said. You've been nothing but helpful, and I threw it in your face." "You're scared. I get it. Doesn't make it right." She picked at a thread on her jeans. "This place is all I have left of him, my dad. If I lose it, it's like he never existed. Like 30 years of his life just gone. That's not true. You carry him forward. How you work, how you fight. That's his legacy, not the land." "Easy to say when it's not your father." "Maybe, but it's still true." Elena looked at him for a long moment. "Who are you really, Nathan?" He could tell her, should tell her. Pull out his phone and show her the news articles, the Forbes profile, the Wikipedia page that detailed every acquisition and controversy. But if he did, everything would change. She'd see the money first, the power. Would wonder what he wanted, would doubt every word he'd spoken. "Just a guy trying to fix more than I've broken," he said instead. Not quite a lie. Not quite the truth. Elena nodded slowly. Okay. But no more secrets. If you're staying, if we're doing this together, I need to know I can trust you. You can. Prove it. Prove. Nathan thought about the message from Marcus, the invitation to meet. Marcus texted me. Wants to talk. Elena went very still. When? A few days ago. And you didn't tell me? I was going to, just wanted to know what we're dealing with first. He gestured at the laptop. He's been running this play for years. Sabotage, accidents, pressure until families give up and sell. You're not the first. But maybe I can be the last. How? Elena stood, paced the barn. We document everything. Every broken fence, every damaged line, every suspicious failure. Build a case. Against a man whose cousin is the sheriff? Then we go higher. State Agriculture Board. FBI if we have to. Nathan wanted to believe it would work. Wanted to believe that evidence and justice would win out. But he'd seen too many fights where money and connections trumped truth. There might be another way, he said slowly. What way? I meet with Marcus, see what he wants. Maybe he tips his hand. Absolutely not. Why? Because it's dangerous. Because he's dangerous. Because... She stopped. Because I don't want you getting hurt over my problems. Something in how she said it made Nathan's chest tight. I'll be careful. Nathan, if he thinks I'm just some drifter helping out, he might underestimate me, might say something useful. Elena shook her head. Or he might make you disappear. This isn't a boardroom, Nathan. This is a man who hospitalizes people who get in his way. I can handle myself. Can you? Against someone who has no rules and nothing to lose? They locked eyes. Nathan saw real fear there, not for herself, for him. I have to try, he said quietly. We can't just keep playing defense. Sooner or later, he'll win. Elena looked like she wanted to argue more. Instead, she just said, if you're doing this, I'm coming with you. That's a terrible idea. Not your call. It's my farm, my fight. Elena, we do this together or not at all. Nathan recognized that tone. Knew there was no point arguing. Together, then. She nodded once. When? I'll set it up for tomorrow. That afternoon, they worked in tense silence. Nathan planted the last section of the south field while Elena ran irrigation checks. The tractor ran smoothly now, almost purring, but Nathan couldn't shake the feeling that they were building something on a foundation that could crack at any moment. As the sun started to set, Elena came out to the field, climbed up onto the tractor's running board. We should stop, eat something. Nathan killed the engine. In the sudden quiet, they could hear wind moving through the corn. It was almost knee-high now, green and healthy, worth fighting for. You really think meeting Marcus will help? Elena asked. I think doing nothing guarantees we lose. And doing something gives us a chance. Elena looked out of the fields. My dad used to say the difference between a good farmer and a great one was knowing when to hold your ground and when to adapt. He was great at it. I'm still trying to figure out which one I am. You're great at holding your ground. That a compliment or a criticism? Both. She smiled a little, climbed down from the tractor. Nathan followed. They walked back to the house together, shoulders almost touching. Inside, Elena made dinner, chicken and rice, simple and filling. They ate in the kitchen this time, at a table scarred by decades of use. Photos on the wall showed a younger Elena with a man who had to be her father. Same determined jaw, same eyes that didn't back down. He would have liked you, Elena said, following Nathan's gaze. How do you know? He liked people who worked hard and didn't complain. You do both. I complain. In your head. Doesn't count. They cleaned up together, developed a rhythm without discussing it. Elena washed, Nathan dried. The domesticity of it felt strange and right all at once. When the kitchen was clean, Elena didn't go upstairs immediately. Instead, she sat at the table, turned a coffee mug in her hands. I'm scared, she said quietly. Of tomorrow. Of Marcus. Of what happens if this doesn't work. Nathan sat across from her. Me too. You don't seem scared. I'm good at hiding it. Practice. From what? From building a life where showing weakness meant losing everything. He met her eyes. But maybe that was wrong. Maybe being scared means you care about the outcome. Do you care about the outcome? Yes. The word hung between them, more than just about the farm, about something neither of them was ready to name. Elena set down the mug. Thank you. For staying, for helping, for... She trailed off. For seeing me. Not the mess or the failure, just me. Nathan wanted to reach across the table. Take her hand. Tell her he saw someone extraordinary fighting an impossible fight with nothing but stubborn will. Instead he said, You're welcome. Elena stood. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be rough. She went upstairs. Nathan walked to the barn, but sleep was impossible. He lay on his tarp and thought about Marcus Vance, about men who took what they wanted, about what he was willing to do to stop them. His phone buzzed, a text from his ex-wife. Evan asked if you're coming to his game this weekend. I didn't know what to say. Nathan stared at the message. This weekend. 3 days away. His son playing baseball, looking into the stands for a father who was never there. He could leave tomorrow, drive straight to Connecticut, make it to the game, finally be the father Evan deserved. But if he left, Elena would face Marcus alone, would fight this battle without backup, would probably lose. Nathan closed his eyes, typed a response. Tell him I'm sorry. Something came up. I'll make the next one. The same lie he'd told a dozen times before, the same broken promise. He sent the message and hated himself for it, but he didn't leave. Morning came too fast. Nathan was already awake when Elena knocked on the barn door, coffee in hand like yesterday, but her face was different, harder, ready for a fight. You still want to do this? She asked. Nathan took the coffee. Yeah. Then let's get it over with. They took Elena's truck. The address Marcus had sent led them west, past fields that stretched for miles. All Marcus's land, all thriving and green and perfect. A stark contrast to Elena's struggling acres. He owns all this? Nathan asked. This and more. 12,000 acres, 3 grain silos, his own processing facility. Elena's hands were tight on the wheel. My dad's place is 200 acres, a speck compared to what Marcus has, but he wants it anyway. Because of the water. Because he can't stand that something exists that he doesn't own. The ranch house appeared after 20 minutes of driving. Not a house. A compound. Modern architecture and manicured lawns, a fountain in the circular driveway, horses grazing in paddocks that probably cost more to maintain than Elena made in a year. Elena parked between a Mercedes and a Range Rover. Remember, we're just here to talk. Don't let him provoke you. Same to you. They walked to the front door together. Before Nathan could knock, it opened. The man standing there was 60, maybe 65. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing jeans and a button-down shirt that probably cost $500 but was meant to look casual. Silver hair, sharp eyes, smile that didn't reach anywhere near genuine. Elena Hart, he said warmly, like they were old friends. What a pleasant surprise. Marcus. Elena's voice was ice. His eyes shifted to Nathan. The smile stayed, but something cold moved behind it. And you brought a friend. How nice. Nathan Cole. Nathan extended his hand. Marcus took it, squeezed just a fraction too hard. Measuring. Come in, come in. Can I offer you coffee, breakfast? We're fine, Elena said. Suit yourself. Marcus led them through a house that was all leather and wood and expensive art that probably meant something to people who cared about such things. They ended up in an office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the property. Marcus settled behind a desk the size of a small car, gestured to chairs. Nathan and Elena remained standing. So, Marcus said, leaning back, to what do I owe this visit? Cut the act, Elena said. You know why we're here. I'm afraid I don't. The fence, the irrigation, the equipment failures that happen right when I need them most. Marcus spread his hands. Farming's hard, Elena. Things break. You know that. Things don't break in patterns, don't break the day before a bank inspection. Is there a bank inspection coming up? I wasn't aware. You're lying. Marcus's smile finally dropped. Careful, Elena. Accusations like that require proof. We have proof, Nathan said quietly. Marcus's attention snapped to him, really looked at him for the first time. Do you now? Photos? Dates? A pattern of sabotage that's gone on for 2 years. And what exactly would I gain from sabotaging Elena's farm? The land, the water rights, the satisfaction of crushing someone who won't bend. Something flickered in Marcus's expression. Respect, maybe. Or recalculation. You're not a farmer, are you, Mr. Cole? No? Then what are you? Someone who doesn't like bullies. Marcus laughed, actually laughed. A white knight. How refreshing. He stood, walked to the window. Let me tell you something about farming, Mr. Cole. It's not for the sentimental. It's not for people who think hard work and good intentions are enough. It's a business. Brutal, unforgiving, survival of the fittest. Is that what you tell yourself? Elena asked. That you're just better at business? I am better. Your father was a good man, Elena. I respected him. But he made poor choices. Borrowed beyond his means, trusted the wrong people, and now you're drowning in debt trying to save something that should have been sold years ago. That's not your decision to make. No. But it will be the banks, and when they foreclose, I'll be there, just like I've been there for every other failing farm in this county. He turned back to face them. I'm offering you an out, Elena, same as I offered your father. Sell to me now. I'll pay fair market value, cover your debt, give you enough to start fresh somewhere else. You mean pennies on the dollar after you've sabotaged my operation into the ground? I mean a chance to walk away with dignity instead of losing everything at auction. Not interested, Marcus sighed. You're as stubborn as he was. It's admirable. Also stupid. We're done here? Elena turned to leave. The bank inspection is in 1 week, Marcus called after her. Not 2. They moved it up. Just thought you should know. Elena froze. What? I may have mentioned to some friends on the board that there were concerns about the property's viability. They agreed an earlier inspection would be prudent. Nathan felt rage burn cold in his chest. You can't do that. I just did. Marcus sat back down, laced his fingers together. 1 week, Elena. Then you lose everything, unless you take my offer. Go to hell. You first. They left. Elena didn't speak until they were 5 miles down the road. Then she pulled over, hands shaking, and slammed them against the steering wheel. 1 week, 1 goddamn week. We can still what? Still magically make the farm profitable? Still prove to the bank that I'm not a disaster waiting to collapse? She turned to Nathan. It's over. He wins. He always wins. No, you heard him. He moved up the inspection. He has people on the board. He's been planning this for years, and I've been playing catch-up with broken equipment and no money. And, Elena, Nathan grabbed her shoulders. Listen to me. We don't give up. Not now. Why not? What's the point? The point is that man doesn't get to take everything you fought for. Doesn't get to erase your father's legacy because he's greedy and connected. And how do we stop him? With what? Nathan thought about his phone, about his assistant who could make calls, pull strings, move money in ways that would solve this problem in an hour. About the power he'd spent 20 years accumulating and never used for anything that mattered. But if he revealed who he was, what he had, Elena would never look at him the same way, would never trust that he was here for the right reasons. We work, he said instead. We make that farm shine. We show the bank there's potential. In 1 week. In 1 week. Elena searched his face, looking for certainty he didn't have. You really think we can do this? I think we don't have a choice. She nodded slowly, wiped her eyes, started the truck. Then let's get to work. They pushed harder than before. 18-hour days starting before dawn and working until they couldn't see without lights. Nathan's body screamed in protest, but he ignored it. Elena drove herself even harder, running on coffee and stubbornness and something that looked like desperation. On the 3rd day, Nathan found her asleep on the tractor. He'd come out to the field at lunch, and there she was, slumped over the wheel, engine still running. He killed the ignition and shook her awake. How long have you been out here? He asked. She blinked, confused. What time is it? Noon. I started at 4. Elena, I'm fine. You're exhausted. I'm busy. She reached for the ignition. Nathan blocked her hand. Take a break. Eat something. Sleep. I can sleep when the inspection's over. You can't work if you collapse. Watch me. They glared at each other. Finally, Nathan said, "You're going to kill yourself trying to save this place." "Better than giving it away." "That's not better, that's just different." Elena's expression cracked. "What do you want from me, Nathan? Want me to admit I'm scared? That I'm in over my head? That every day I wake up and wonder if this is the day it all falls apart? I want you to let me help." "You are helping." "No, I'm working. There's a difference." Nathan sat on the tractor's wheel hub. "You're carrying this alone, all of it. The debt, the pressure, the fear. You don't have to." "Yes, I do. It's my farm. My responsibility. It's ours. We're in this together, remember? Until you leave." The words hung between them, true and painful. "I'm not leaving," Nathan said. "Everyone leaves eventually." "Not everyone." Elena looked at him. Really looked at him. "You will. When this is over, when the inspection's done, you'll go back to whatever life you came from. And I'll be here. Alone. Again. What if I don't?" "Don't what?" "Leave." She laughed, bitter and broken. "Why would you stay? You've got a life somewhere, a son, responsibilities, this." She gestured at the fields. "This isn't yours." "Maybe it should be." Elena went very still. "What are you saying?" Nathan didn't know, hadn't meant to say it, but now that the words were out, he couldn't take them back. "I'm saying I've spent 20 years building something that doesn't matter, and maybe this does, maybe you do." "Nathan, I'm saying I don't want to leave, not after the inspection, not after we win. I want to stay and help you rebuild, and maybe figure out what the hell I'm supposed to do with my life." Elena stared at him. "You don't mean that." "I do. You don't even know me. I know you work harder than anyone I've ever met. I know you'd rather break than bend. I know you're fighting for something real, and that matters more than any deal I've ever made. That's not knowing someone. That's romanticizing them. Maybe. Or maybe it's seeing clearly for the first time in years." They sat in the field's silence. The corn rustled. Clouds moved overhead. "I can't do this," Elena said finally. Her voice was small, scared. "Can't let myself believe you'll stay. Can't survive it when you don't. I'm not asking you to believe anything. I'm just asking you to let me be here. Now. Today." Elena closed her eyes. "Okay, today." That night, the storm warning started. Nathan saw them on his phone. Severe thunderstorm watch, possible hail, high winds. He showed Elena. She looked at the radar and went pale. "If we get hail before the inspection, we'll cover what we can." "How? We don't have tarps for the whole field, don't have time to harvest anything." "Then we protect the equipment, make sure the buildings are secure." They worked through sunset preparing, moved the tractor into the barn, secured loose metal sheets, brought in everything that could blow away. The sky turned green at the edges. "We should get inside," Nathan said. "Not yet. Need to check the irrigation one more time." "Elena, the storm's coming." "I know. Just give me 10 minutes." She ran toward the south field. Nathan followed, already feeling the wind pick up. The temperature dropped 10 degrees in as many seconds. Lightning flickered on the horizon. Elena was kneeling by a control panel when the first drops hit. Big, heavy drops that meant business. She was trying to adjust something, fingers fumbling with the controls. It stuck. The valve's stuck, and if I can't close it, the whole system will flood, and it thunder cracked overhead. The rain started for real. Sheets of it, violent and cold. "Leave it," Nathan shouted over the wind. "I can't! If this floods—" A sound like a freight train. Nathan looked up and saw it. A wall of water and wind and debris moving across the field toward them. He grabbed Elena and pulled. She fought him. "The system isn't worth your life." He dragged her toward the barn. The wind tried to rip them apart. Rain hit like fists. Something metal flew past Nathan's head close enough to feel the air move. They made it to the barn as the storm hit full force. Nathan slammed the door, and they collapsed against it, soaked and breathing hard. Outside, the world tried to tear itself apart. The storm lasted 3 hours. 3 hours of wind that made the barn walls shake, and rain that sounded like gravel on the roof, and thunder that felt like it was inside Nathan's chest. They sat against the door in the dark. The power had gone out immediately, and listened to their lives get destroyed. Elena didn't cry, didn't speak, just sat with her arms wrapped around her knees and stared at nothing. When it finally stopped, the silence was almost worse. They stepped outside into devastation. The field they'd just planted was underwater. The irrigation system Elena had been trying to save was scattered in pieces across half an acre. The fence they'd repaired was gone. Not broken, gone, ripped up and carried away. The house had lost part of its roof. Shingles everywhere. Water pouring through the second floor. Elena walked through it all like she was moving through a dream, touched the broken fence, looked at the flooded field, stood in front of her house with water streaming through the ceiling. "It's over," she said, voice flat, empty. "We can fix—" "Stop." She turned to face him. "Just stop. Stop pretending we can fix this. Stop pretending any of it matters." "Elena, the inspection's in 4 days. 4 days. Look at this place. Look at what's left." She laughed, high and broken. "Marcus doesn't even have to sabotage me anymore. The universe is doing it for him." Nathan wanted to argue, wanted to tell her they could still salvage something. But looking at the wreckage, he wasn't sure he believed it. "Let's just see what we can—" "No?" Elena walked toward the house. "I'm done. You were right to leave when you had the chance. This place is cursed. My father couldn't save it and neither can I." She went inside. Nathan stood alone in the mud and rain and tried to figure out how everything had fallen apart so fast. He spent the rest of the day assessing damage. The south field was completely flooded, total loss. The north field had survived better, but the irrigation system feeding it was destroyed. The barn was intact. The house needed a new roof and probably had water damage throughout. Cost to repair, more than Elena had, more than she could borrow. More than could be fixed in 4 days, even if money wasn't an issue. Nathan sat on the porch as evening fell and did math he didn't want to do. The numbers didn't work. No matter how he calculated it, there was no scenario where Elena saved the farm. Unless he helped. Really helped. He pulled out his phone, called his assistant. "Nathan," she said, relief in her voice. "Thank God. The board's been— I need you to do something. Don't ask questions." "Okay. Wire $50,000 to my personal account. Then I need you to find me a roofing crew that can work in Nebraska. Fast. An irrigation specialist. And what— Nathan, what's going on? Just do it. Please." A pause. "Is this about a woman?" "It's about doing something that matters." "Okay. I'll have the money transferred within the hour. The crews might take a day or two to arrange." "We don't have a day or two." "I'll do my best." Nathan hung up, stared at his phone. He was about to blow his cover, about to reveal everything, but what choice did he have? The screen door opened. Elena stood there, backlit by the house's interior light. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Making calls." "For what?" "Help. We need help." "Nathan, we can't afford—" "I can." She went very still. "What does that mean?" Here it was. The moment where everything changed. "It means I've been lying to you," Nathan said. "Not about everything, but about who I am. What I can do." "I don't understand." Nathan stood, turned to face her. "I told you I was passing through, that I was running from my life. That's true, but what I didn't tell you is that my life includes money. A lot of money. Enough to fix this farm 10 times over." Elena's expression went from confused to hard. "How much money?" "More than matters." "How much?" "Billions." The word landed like a slap. Elena took a step back. "You're lying." "I'm not. Billionaires don't just show up on dirt roads and fix tractors." "This one did." She stared at him, processing. "You've been lying to me for 2 weeks." "I didn't lie. I just didn't— You let me think you were nobody. Let me think we were in this together. Let me trust you." "We are in this together." "No." Her voice shook. "You were slumming. Playing farmer, pretending to be something you're not so you could feel good about yourself. That's not fair." "Fair?" She laughed. "You want to talk about fair? I poured my heart out to you, told you things I haven't told anyone, trusted you when I don't trust anyone, and the whole time you were lying. I was trying to help. By deceiving me? By making me think you were something you're not? I'm exactly who I said I was. A guy who needed to fix something, who needed to feel useful. No, you're a billionaire who wanted to play hero, who wanted to save the poor struggling farmer so you could feel better about your real life. She was crying now, angry tears streaming down her face. Well, congratulations. You did it. You exposed me as the charity case I always was. Elena, get out. Let me explain. Get out, she was shouting now. Get out of my barn and off my land and out of my life. Nathan stood frozen. I'm trying to save your farm. I don't want you to save it. I don't want your money or your help or your pity. I want you gone. You don't mean that. I do. I really do. She wiped her eyes. You want to help? Wire money to the bank. Pay off my debt. Buy the farm yourself for all I care. But do it from wherever billionaires do their business. Just don't do it here. She went inside, slammed the door, locked it. Nathan stood on the porch in the dark and felt everything he'd been trying to build crumble. He'd come here to fix something, to find purpose, to maybe become someone his son could be proud of. Instead, he'd lied to the one person who'd treated him like a human being instead of a bank account, had broken her trust trying to save something she'd needed to save herself. He walked to the barn, gathered his things, which wasn't much since he'd bought everything here, his phone, his wallet, the keys to Elena's truck, which he left on the workbench. He'd call a car, go back to New York, wire the money anonymously, make sure Elena kept her farm, and never see her again. He was halfway to making the call when he stopped. This was what he always did. Ran when things got hard. Fixed problems with money from a distance. Never stayed to face the mess he'd made. His son was growing up without a father because Nathan kept running. His marriage had failed because he'd never been present. His whole life was built on being somewhere else. Not this time. Nathan set down his phone, walked back to the house, knocked on the door. Go away, Elena shouted from inside. No, Nathan, I'm not leaving. I'm not wiring money from New York and disappearing. I'm staying and we're going to fix this together. I don't want your help. Too bad. You're getting it anyway. You can't just decide. You're right, I lied. I should have told you who I was from the start. But I was scared. Scared you'd see the money instead of me. Scared you'd never trust that I was here for the right reasons. Silence from inside. I've spent 20 years being Nathan Cole, the billionaire, he continued, and I hate him, hate what he's become, hate that he has everything and nothing. So when I met you, when you saw me as just Nathan, just some guy who could fix a tractor, I wanted to be that, wanted to be someone simple and useful and real. More silence. But I'm not simple. I've got money and power and connections and all the things that make people treat me different. And I should have been honest about that. Should have trusted you to see past it. I'm sorry. The door opened. Elena stood there, eyes red, arms crossed. You're still leaving, she said. No. You have to. I can't. Her voice broke. I can't have you here out of pity. Can't have you saving me because you feel guilty about your real life. That's not why I'm here. Then why? Nathan met her eyes. Because for the first time in 20 years, I'm exactly where I need to be. Because you see me as someone worth knowing instead of something worth using. Because your fight matters more than any board meeting or acquisition or anything I've ever done. That's just guilt talking. No. That's me finally being honest. He stepped closer. I don't want to save you, Elena. I want to fight with you. Want to rebuild this farm and tell Marcus to go to hell and maybe figure out how to be someone my son wouldn't be ashamed of. Elena searched his face. You'll leave eventually. They always do. Maybe. But not tonight. Not tomorrow. Not until you tell me to go. She looked at him for a long moment, something shifting behind her eyes. Not forgiveness. Not trust. But maybe the beginning of both. Okay, she said finally. But no more lies. Not about who you are or what you can do or why you're really here. No more lies. And you don't get to just fix everything with money. We do this the right way, together. Together. Elena nodded, stepped aside, let him in. They stood in her kitchen, damaged ceiling, dripping water into a bucket, walls stained, everything wrong, and neither of them moved. The inspection's in 4 days, Elena said. I know. We can't fix everything in 4 days. No. but we can fix enough. How? Nathan pulled out his phone. I know people, good people, people who owe me favors. Nathan, not fixing it with money, fixing it with help. There's a difference. Elena looked exhausted, defeated, but also something else. Something that might have been hope. Okay, she said, let's try. Nathan made the calls from Elena's kitchen while she tried to salvage what she could from the upstairs bedrooms. He started with his assistant. I need emergency contractors in Nebraska, roofing crew, irrigation specialists, structural engineers, best people you can find. Nathan, coordinating that in 3 days will cost, I don't care what it costs. Just make it happen. Okay. Anything else? He hesitated. Yeah, I need documentation. Every property transaction Marcus Vance has made in the last 10 years. Every lawsuit, every insurance claim, every complaint filed with the county, everything. That's going to take time. You have 12 hours. He hung up and called his lawyer next. Then an investigator he'd used for due diligence on acquisitions. Then a friend at the FBI who owed him a favor from 5 years back. By midnight, wheels were turning. By morning, people would arrive. Elena came downstairs carrying a box of photo albums, water-damaged but salvageable. She set them on the kitchen table and just stared at them. My whole childhood, she said quietly. My dad's whole life. Almost lost. Nathan moved the bucket catching drips from the ceiling. We'll dry them out. Scan them if we need to. That's not the point. I know. She sat at the table, opened one of the albums, pages stuck together, photos bleeding color. She peeled one free carefully, a young girl on a tractor, maybe 7 years old, grinning at the camera, her father's arm around her shoulders. He taught me to drive that tractor when I was 6, Elena said. Illegally young, probably dangerous, definitely against my mother's wishes. But he said farmers start early or they don't start at all. She touched the photo. I thought I was so grown up, so important. Nathan sat across from her. You were. I was a kid playing pretend, just like I've been playing pretend for the last 2 years. Pretending I could do what he did. Pretending hard work would be enough. It is enough. Then why are we losing? Because Marcus cheated. Because the system's rigged. Because sometimes doing everything right still isn't enough. Nathan reached across the table, stopped just short of taking her hand. But that doesn't mean we quit. Elena looked at his hand, at him. Why do you care so much? Really? Not the guilt or the redemption or whatever. Why does this farm matter to you? Nathan thought about it. Really thought about it. Because it's real. Because your father built something that mattered and you're fighting to keep it alive, and that's worth more than any company I've ever run. Because watching you work, watching you fight, makes me want to be better than I've been. That's a lot of pressure. You didn't ask for it. No. She finally took his hand, squeezed once, let go. But here we are anyway. They sat in the damaged kitchen until the water bucket overflowed and Nathan had to empty it. Outside, the first hint of dawn was touching the horizon. You should sleep, Elena said. Tomorrow's going to be brutal. So should you. Can't. Too much spinning in my head. She closed the photo album carefully. Tell me about your son. The question caught Nathan off guard. What? You mentioned him. Evan, 7 years old. Tell me about him. Nathan leaned back in his chair. I don't know him well enough to tell you much. That's the problem. Then tell me what you do know. He loves dinosaurs, the kind with long names I can never pronounce. And baseball. Plays second base, I think. Or maybe shortstop. His mother sends me pictures, but I can never remember which position is which. Nathan rubbed his face. He asked if I was coming to his game this weekend. I told him no. Again. Because you're here. Because I'm always somewhere else. This time, I at least have a reason that matters. Elena was quiet for a moment. Does he look like you? More like his mother, thank God. She's the good parent. You're here trying to save a stranger's farm. That counts for something. Does it? Because from where I'm sitting, I'm just running from one responsibility to another. Maybe. Or maybe you're finally learning what's worth fighting for. Nathan looked at her. Is that what you think? I think you're here. I think you stayed when you could have left. I think that matters more than you give yourself credit for. Elena stood. Get some sleep, Nathan. We've got 3 days to pull off a miracle. She went upstairs. Nathan heard her moving around, opening windows to air out the water damage. He sat alone in the kitchen and thought about Evan, about missing another game, about the pattern of absence that defined his relationship with his son. He pulled out his phone, typed a message to his ex-wife. I know I keep saying this, but I'm going to make it right. I don't know how yet, but I will. He didn't send it. What was the point? He'd said it before, broken the promise before. Instead, he deleted the message and went to sleep on Elena's couch. The barn was too far, too isolated, and after tonight's revelations, he didn't want that distance between them. He woke to the sound of trucks. Multiple trucks. Big ones. Nathan stumbled to the window. 3 commercial vehicles were parked in the driveway. Men in work gear were unloading equipment. A woman in a hard hat was walking the property with a tablet, taking notes. Elena stood in the yard talking to a man who looked like he'd been building things since before Nathan was born. She saw Nathan in the window and waved him out. Your people? She asked when he reached her. I guess so. The older man extended a hand. Frank Morrison. Your assistant said you needed a roof fixed yesterday. Day before yesterday, actually. Frank laughed. I like honesty. Let me see what we're working with. He and his crew disappeared onto the roof. Another team headed for the irrigation system. A third started assessing the flooded field. Elena pulled Nathan aside. How much is this costing? Don't worry about it. Nathan, we agreed. Together. That means I use what I have and you use what you have and we don't keep score. That's not fair to you. Life's not fair. You taught me that. She wanted to argue. He could see it. Instead, she just shook her head and went to help the irrigation team. The next 3 days blurred together in a chaos of work and coordination and small miracles that added up. Frank's crew had the roof patched in 8 hours and properly fixed in 30. The irrigation team salvaged what they could and jerry-rigged the rest into something functional. The flooded field couldn't be saved, but they managed to drain it enough that it didn't look like a disaster zone. Nathan worked alongside everyone, learning as he went. How to properly seal a roof, how to test water pressure in irrigation lines, how to read soil composition and determine what could be salvaged. Elena was everywhere at once, directing crews, making decisions, working twice as hard as anyone else. Nathan watched her transform from exhausted and defeated to focused and fierce. This was her element, not giving up, fighting. On the second day, Nathan's investigator called. I've got what you asked for. Marcus Vance is dirty as hell. How dirty? 6 property acquisitions in 10 years, all from families who experienced suspicious equipment failures and accidents right before foreclosure. 2 lawsuits settled out of court with NDAs. 1 insurance fraud investigation that went nowhere because a key witness recanted. And here's the interesting part. He's been paying off a county inspector for the last 5 years. Nathan felt something cold and sharp settle in his chest. You have proof? Bank records, email trails, enough to make the FBI very interested if it landed on the right desk. Send it to me, all of it. Nathan, if you're thinking about confronting him, just send it. The files arrived an hour later. Nathan printed everything and put it in a folder. Then he made another call. Marcus Vance's office. This is Nathan Cole. I need to speak with Marcus. A pause. 1 moment. Marcus came on the line sounding amused. Mr. Cole, to what do I owe the pleasure? We need to talk. In person. About? Your business practices, your arrangements with certain county officials, your pattern of acquiring properties through intimidation and sabotage. The amusement vanished. I don't know what you think you found. I found everything. And I'm coming to see you in 1 hour, alone. You're going to listen to what I have to say. Or what? Or I send what I have to the FBI and you spend the next decade fighting federal charges. Silence. Then, 1 hour. Come alone or the deal's off. Nathan hung up, turned to find Elena standing in the doorway. What deal? She asked. I'm going to see Marcus. Like hell you are. Elena, last time you went to see him, he moved up the inspection. What do you think he'll do this time? I'm not asking permission. Good, because I'm coming with you. No. Yes. She crossed her arms. This is my farm. My fight. You don't get to handle it alone. It's too dangerous. So is farming. I'm coming. They locked eyes. Nathan saw the same stubborn determination that had kept this farm alive for 2 years. "Fine," he said, "but you stay in the truck. If things go wrong, we both leave. Together." They drove to Marcus's ranch in tense silence. Nathan kept the folder on his lap. Elena kept her hand near the door handle, ready to run if needed. Marcus was waiting on his porch. No smile this time. No pretense of friendliness. "You have 15 minutes, he said. Nathan got out. Elena followed despite his look. They walked up to the porch together. "I thought I said alone," Marcus said. "You thought wrong." Nathan opened the folder. "Let's talk about your business model." He laid out the documents one by one. Property acquisitions, timelines of equipment failures, bank records showing payments to a county inspector, email chains discussing pressure tactics and strategic interventions. Marcus's expression never changed. "Interesting collection of paperwork. Proves nothing. It proves you've been sabotaging competitors for years. It proves you've been bribing officials. It proves every suspicion Elena's had about you." "Suspicions aren't evidence. These are." Nathan tapped the documents. "The FBI will be very interested in your relationship with County Inspector Davies, and your insurance claims, and the pattern of accidents that seem to follow anyone who won't sell to you. You're bluffing. Try me." Marcus looked at the documents, at Nathan, at Elena. "What do you want?" "Leave Elena alone. Stop the sabotage. Back off the bank inspection, and sell her water rights at fair market value." Marcus laughed. "You're insane." "No, I'm motivated, and I've got resources you can't match. You think money scares me? I've got plenty of my own." "Not like mine, and not the connections that come with it." Nathan leaned forward. "I can make your life very difficult, Marcus. Can tie you up in lawsuits for years. Can make sure every business deal you touch gets scrutinized. Can turn your name into poison in this county and every county around it." "You do all that for a farm that's not even yours?" "Yes." "Why?" Nathan glanced at Elena. "Because it's the right thing to do." Marcus studied them both, calculating. "You want me to just walk away, forget years of planning, lose millions in potential revenue, all because you've got a folder of accusations that may or may not hold up in court?" "No, I want you to walk away because the alternative is worse." Nathan straightened. "You're smart enough to know when you're beaten. This is that moment." The silence stretched. Elena stood perfectly still beside Nathan, barely breathing. Finally, Marcus said, "The inspection happens as scheduled, tomorrow. If Elena's farm passes, I'll back off. If it doesn't, I buy it at auction and you don't interfere." That's the deal. Take it, or I'll tie you up in court for the next 5 years and bankrupt that farm through legal fees alone." Nathan wanted to argue, wanted to threaten, but Marcus had just revealed his own weakness. He was worried about the documents, worried enough to negotiate. "Fine," Nathan said, "but the sabotage stops now, tonight. If anything else breaks suspiciously between now and the inspection, nothing will break. You have my word." "Your word means nothing." Marcus smiled thinly. "Then I guess you'll just have to trust me." They left, got in the truck, drove half a mile before Elena spoke. "Did we just win or lose?" "I don't know. He's going to let the inspection happen. That's something. Or he's confident we'll fail anyway." Elena looked out at the fields rolling past. "Then we better make sure we don't." They got back to the farm at sunset. The crews were packing up. Frank found Nathan and handed him a clipboard. "Everything's documented. Roof's solid, should last another 20 years. Irrigation's functional, but you'll want to upgrade the whole system when you can afford it. Field drainage is improved, but that South 40 is going to be marginal for a while." "Will it pass inspection?" Frank scratched his chin. "Depends what they're looking for. Structurally, yeah. Operationally, you're on the edge. Could go either way." "That's not reassuring." "Farming never is." Frank clapped Nathan on the shoulder. "But you've got good bones here. Property's worth saving." The crews left. Nathan and Elena stood in the yard looking at what they'd built in 3 days. The house had a new roof. The fields were drained. The equipment was functional. It wasn't perfect, wasn't even close, but it was better than it had been. "Think it's enough?" Elena asked. "Has to be." That night they ate dinner on the porch again. Sandwiches, because neither had energy for anything more complicated. The sky was clear, stars bright enough to read by. Tomorrow we find out if 2 years of work meant anything, Elena said. It meant something regardless. Did it? Because if we lose tomorrow, it all goes to Marcus anyway. The outcome doesn't determine the meaning. You fought. That matters. Elena set down her sandwich. You sound like my father. He used to say the work was the reward, that the trying was enough. Was he right? I don't know. Ask me tomorrow. They cleaned up. Elena went inside. Nathan started for the barn, but she called him back. Don't sleep out there tonight. Where should I sleep? I don't know. Couch, guest room, somewhere that's not alone in a barn the night before everything falls apart. Nathan came back to the porch. You think it's going to fall apart? I think there's a good chance, and I don't want to face it alone. She went inside. Nathan followed. She pointed to the guest room, her father's room from the looks of it. Photos on the wall, old furniture, clean sheets that smelled like lavender. Thank you, Nathan said. For what? For letting me stay. For trusting me after I lied, for not giving up even when you had every reason to. Elena leaned against the door frame. You want to know something? I'm terrified. Of tomorrow. Of losing. Of what comes after if we don't make it. Me too. But I'm glad you're here. Glad I didn't have to do this alone. So am I. They stood in the hallway, neither moving. The house creaked around them, settling, holding together. Good night, Nathan. Good night. She went to her room. Nathan lay on the bed and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow would determine everything. Tomorrow, Marcus would either be forced to honor his word or they'd lose the farm, and Elena's last connection to her father would disappear. Nathan pulled out his phone, looked at photos of Evan he'd saved months ago, his son at baseball practice, his son building something with Legos, his son smiling at something off camera. He typed another message to his ex-wife. I miss him. I miss being his father. I don't know how to fix it, but I'm trying to learn. This time he sent it. The response came 5 minutes later. He misses you too. We both do. Whatever you're doing out there, I hope it's worth it. Nathan looked at the message for a long time. Then he turned off his phone and tried to sleep. The bank inspector arrived at 8 in the morning. A woman in her 50s with a clipboard and an expression that gave nothing away. She introduced herself as Jennifer Morrison and said she'd need about 3 hours to complete her assessment. Elena showed her around. Nathan followed at a distance, watching Jennifer make notes and take photos and ask questions Elena answered with forced calm. They walked the fields, examined the irrigation system, inspected the house and barn. Jennifer's expression never changed. She just wrote and photographed and moved methodically through her checklist. After 2 hours, she asked to see financial records. Elena brought out everything: loan documents, expense reports, crop projections, maintenance logs. Jennifer reviewed them in silence. Nathan wanted to say something, wanted to argue their case, but this wasn't a negotiation, it was an evaluation. The numbers would speak for themselves. Finally, Jennifer closed the last folder and stood. I've seen enough. And? Elena's voice was tight. The property shows significant recent improvements: roof repairs, irrigation updates, field drainage, all documented and up to code. But your debt-to-asset ratio is concerning. Your crop yields are below county average, and your operating expenses exceed your revenue by a significant margin. This year was unusual. The storm, the equipment failures. I understand, but my job isn't to evaluate circumstances. It's to evaluate viability. Jennifer consulted her notes. Based on current conditions, I cannot recommend approval for loan continuation. The words hit like a physical blow. Elena swayed. Nathan caught her arm. There has to be something we can do, Nathan said. Jennifer looked at him. Are you a co-owner of this property? No. Then respectfully, this doesn't concern you. It concerns me. Let him speak, Elena said quietly. Jennifer sighed. There is one option. If Ms. Hart can secure additional capital investment, either through a business partner or a co-signer with sufficient assets, the bank might reconsider. But we're talking substantial capital, enough to cover operational expenses for the next 2 years while the farm rebuilds. How much? Nathan asked. $300,000, minimum. Elena made a sound like she'd been punched. I don't have that kind of money. Don't have anyone who does. Nathan met Jennifer's eyes. I do. Nathan, no, Elena started. I'll co-sign. Provide the capital, whatever's needed. Jennifer raised an eyebrow. You have $300,000? I have significantly more than that. And you're willing to risk it on a farm that's barely breaking even? Yes. Jennifer looked between them. I'll need documentation, proof of assets, legal agreements about ownership and liability. You'll have everything by end of business today. Then I'll recommend conditional approval pending review of those documents. Jennifer closed her clipboard. But understand, this is highly irregular, and if the farm fails to meet benchmarks over the next 2 years, you'll both be liable. I understand. Jennifer nodded, left, got in her car, and drove away. Elena turned to Nathan. What did you just do? Saved your farm. By risking $300,000 on a property that's failing? It's not failing, it's rebuilding. Nathan, you can't just… She stopped, started again. This isn't charity. This isn't you playing hero. This is real money, real risk. I know. Do you? Because if this fails, if we can't turn a profit, you lose everything you just put in. Not everything, not even close. That's not the point. Then what is the point? Elena paced the yard. The point is I didn't want to be saved, didn't want someone to swoop in and fix my problems with money. I'm not fixing your problems. I'm becoming part of them. What does that mean? It means I'm invested, literally and figuratively. It means this farm is mine now too. We succeed together or we fail together. Elena stopped pacing. You're serious. You're actually going to risk hundreds of thousands of dollars on this place. Yes. Why? Because it matters. Because you matter. Because I want to build something real instead of just making money. She searched his face. You're insane. Probably. And you're sure about this? Really sure? More sure than I've been about anything in years. Elena closed her eyes, opened them. Okay, but we do this right. Legal agreements, clear terms. You're not a silent partner. You're part of this operation. I can live with that. And no more secrets. No more keeping things from me to protect me. Deal. They shook hands. It felt absurdly formal given everything they'd been through. Then Elena laughed. A real laugh. Relieved and slightly hysterical. We're actually doing this. We're actually saving the farm. We are. She grabbed him, hugged him hard. Nathan froze for a second, then hugged her back. She was shaking. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for staying, for fighting, for not giving up on this place. Thank you for letting me. They stood in the yard holding each other while the morning sun climbed higher. The farm looked different now. Not perfect, not healed, but alive, fighting. Worth saving. Nathan spent the afternoon coordinating with his lawyers, drawing up partnership agreements, transferring funds, making everything official and legal and binding. By evening, Jennifer had received all documentation. She called to confirm conditional approval. The farm was safe. Elena made dinner, actual dinner, not sandwiches. Chicken and vegetables and bread she'd baked that morning before the inspection. They ate on the porch and watched the sun set over fields that were theirs now, together. What happens next? Elena asked. We work. We rebuild. We prove this place can thrive. And Marcus? We deal with him if he breaks his word. Otherwise, we ignore him. Elena twirled pasta on her fork. You really going to stay? Help run a farm in Nebraska when you could be running companies in New York? Yeah. Your son's in Connecticut. The reminder stung. I know. You can't ignore that forever. I'm not ignoring it. I'm figuring out how to do both. How to be present here and present for him. That's not easy. Nothing worth doing is. They finished eating, cleaned up together. Elena went to bed early, exhausted from days of stress and work. Nathan stayed on the porch, looking at the farm they'd saved. His phone rang, his ex-wife. Nathan? Hey, I got your message about Evan. Yeah. Are you okay? You sound different. I am different. Maybe. I don't know. She was quiet for a moment. Where are you? Nebraska, on a farm. A farm? Long story. I've got time. So Nathan told her about the broken truck and the struggling farmer and the fight to save something real, about becoming partners and investing everything and finally finding purpose in dirt and work. When he finished, his ex-wife said, "You sound happy." "I am. Maybe. It's complicated." "Is there someone?" Nathan thought about Elena, about late nights on the porch and working side by side, and the way she looked at him like he was just Nathan, not a bank account.
There might be, eventually, if I don't screw it up. You will screw it up. That's what you do. But maybe, she trailed off. Maybe this time you'll fix it too. I'm trying. Good. Evan deserves a father who tries. She paused. His next game is Saturday, 2 weeks from now. Think you can make it? 2 weeks. Enough time to get things stable here. Enough time to prove he could do both. Yeah, I'll be there. Don't promise if you can't deliver. I can deliver. I will deliver.
Okay, I'll tell him. She hung up. Nathan sat in the dark and thought about his son, about being present, about learning to balance the life he'd built with the life he'd found. It wouldn't be easy, might be impossible, but he was going to try. For the first time in years, that felt like enough. The first week after the inspection passed in a blur of paperwork and planning. Nathan and Elena sat at her kitchen table every evening, spreading crop projections and budget forecasts across the scarred wood, arguing over every decision like their lives depended on it. Because they did. "We can't afford new equipment this year," Elena said, circling numbers on a spreadsheet. "Not if we want to keep reserves for emergencies. We need a backup tractor. If the Massey dies again, then we fix it again." She looked up at him. "I know you've got money, Nathan, but we agreed. We run this like a real farm, not like some hobby you can throw cash at when things get hard. I'm trying to be practical." Practical is understanding we can't spend our way out of every problem. Nathan leaned back. She was right. He knew she was right. But every instinct he'd developed over 20 years of business told him to eliminate risk, buy redundancy, invest in infrastructure. "Okay," he said, "we budget for repairs, not replacements. But if that tractor dies during harvest, then we deal with it, like farmers do." They worked until midnight, then Elena made coffee, and they worked until 2. Nathan had negotiated billion-dollar deals with less intensity than he brought to deciding between seed varieties. Around 3 in the morning, Elena threw her pencil down. "This is insane. We're arguing about corn like it's life or death." "It is life or death. For the farm." "No. The farm's safe. The bank approved our partnership. We've got 2 years to prove viability." She rubbed her eyes. "This is just us being terrified of screwing up." Nathan looked at the papers scattered across the table. She was right about that, too. "Yeah. So maybe we should sleep. Make decisions when we're not exhausted and paranoid." "Probably smart." Neither of them moved. "Can I ask you something?" Elena said. "Sure. Do you actually know anything about farming, or are you just really good at pretending?" Nathan laughed. "Little of both. I'm learning as I go." "That's terrifying." "Welcome to my entire life." Elena smiled. Actually smiled. "You know what's weird? I spent 2 years doing this alone and hating every second. Now I'm doing it with a partner who doesn't know what he's doing, and somehow it's better. Because you're not alone." "Yeah." She stood, stretched. "Get some sleep. Tomorrow we're planting the West 40, and you're going to learn what real work feels like." The next morning proved her right. Nathan's body had adjusted to farm work over the past weeks. But planting was a different animal. Hours on the tractor in the heat, precise rows that had to be perfect, concentration that never let up. By noon, his back was screaming. By evening, he could barely stand. Elena brought him water and didn't comment on the fact that he'd planted 2 rows slightly crooked. "You'll get better," she said. "When?" "Eventually, maybe." She grinned. "My dad used to say the land teaches you or it breaks you. No middle ground." "What if it does both? Then you're a real farmer." They worked until sunset, then collapsed on the porch with sandwiches and beer Elena had been saving for a special occasion. The field stretched before them, neat rows of potential that would either thrive or fail based on 1,000 factors they couldn't control. "You ever wonder if we're crazy?" Nathan asked. "Every day." "But you keep going." Don't have much choice. This is all I've got. She paused. Well, not anymore. Now you're stuck here too. I'm not stuck. I chose this. Did you? Or did your truck break down and you just kept making choices that led you deeper in? Nathan thought about that, about the broken Ford and the struggling woman with a wrench and every decision that followed. Little of both, I guess. That's life. Half choice, half accident, all momentum. They drank their beer and watched the stars come out. Somewhere in the distance, an owl called. The corn rustled in the evening breeze. I talked to my ex-wife, Nathan said. Told her I'd be at Evan's game in 2 weeks. Elena went still. You leaving? Just for a weekend, flying out Friday, back Sunday. And you think you can just do that? Drop everything and fly to Connecticut? I have to. He's my son. I know, but we've got planting to finish, equipment to maintain, 1,000 things that can't wait. Then we work harder this week, get ahead of schedule. Elena was quiet for a long moment. You can't do both forever. Eventually, you'll have to choose. Why? Because that's how it works. You're either here or you're there. You can't split yourself in half. Watch me. She looked at him. You're going to burn out, trying to be a farmer and a father and whatever else you think you need to be. Maybe, but I'm going to try anyway. Elena shook her head. You're stubborn. Learned from the best. She almost smiled. Just don't disappear on me, okay? Don't become one of those partners who's here in name only while I do all the real work. I won't. Promise? I promise. The week that followed tested that promise. They worked dawn to dusk, pushing to get the planting finished before Nathan left. Elena drove herself harder than before, like she was trying to prove she didn't need him. Nathan matched her hour for hour, refusing to be the weak link. On Wednesday, Marcus called. I hear you're partnered up now, he said. No preamble, no pretense. News travels. In a county this size, everyone knows everything. A pause. I'm a man of my word, Cole. I said I'd back off if the farm passed inspection. I'm backing off. Good. But understand something. You bought yourself time, not victory. 2 years from now, when the bank reviews again, I'll be watching. And if that farm's not thriving, if Elena's still struggling to break even, I'll be there to pick up the pieces. We'll be thriving. Marcus laughed. Your confidence is admirable. Also naive, but I suppose that's what makes you dangerous. I'm not trying to be dangerous. No, you're trying to be a hero. Save the girl. Save the farm. Feel good about yourself. His voice hardened. But this isn't a movie, Cole. This is business. And in business, sentiment gets you killed. Then I guess I'll die trying. Probably, but at least you'll die interesting. Marcus hung up. Nathan stared at his phone, anger and something else churning in his gut, fear maybe, or recognition. Because Marcus was right about one thing, this was business. And Nathan had spent 20 years in business learning that good intentions didn't matter if the numbers didn't work. That night he and Elena went over the projections again. Running scenarios, stress testing assumptions, looking for the gaps where failure could creep in. We're on the edge, Elena said finally. Even with your investment, we're one bad season from trouble. So we don't have a bad season. That's not how farming works. You can do everything right and still lose to weather or pests or market prices dropping at the wrong time. Then we plan for contingencies, diversify income, find additional revenue streams. Like what? Nathan thought about it, about his years analyzing businesses and finding inefficiencies. What if we didn't just sell raw crops? What if we processed them, added value? With what equipment? What expertise? I don't know yet, but there's got to be a way to turn this land into more than just commodity farming. Elena looked skeptical. My dad tried that. Wanted to start a mill, process grain on site, couldn't get the capital together. We have capital now. Not enough to build infrastructure and survive 2 years of operations. Then we start smaller, find something that doesn't require massive investment but adds margin. Nathan pulled out his laptop, started searching. What about organic certification? Premium pricing? Takes 3 years to certify and costs a fortune in the meantime. Agritourism? We're 60 miles from nowhere. Who's touring? They went back and forth for hours, shooting down ideas, building new ones. By midnight, they had something that might work. A farm stand selling directly to consumers, cutting out distributors. Small scale. Low investment. Potential for better margins. It's not much, Elena said. It's a start. You really think people will drive out here to buy vegetables? I think people will pay for quality and story, and we've got both. Elena looked at their notes, at Nathan. Okay, we try it, but we're already stretched thin. Adding another project, we make it work. Together. She nodded slowly. Together. Friday came too fast. Nathan packed a bag. The first time he'd packed for anything other than farm work in weeks. His New York clothes looked foreign now, expensive and uncomfortable and wrong. Elena drove him to the airport. They didn't talk much during the 2-hour drive, just sat in comfortable silence, watching Nebraska scroll past. At departures, Elena kept the engine running. You're coming back, right? Sunday night. I mean really coming back, not just visiting between your real life. Nathan looked at her. This is my real life now. New York's just where my son happens to be. For now. What's that mean? It means kids grow up. Situations change. Eventually you might need to choose. I already chose. Elena wanted to believe him. He could see it, but trust didn't come easy for either of them. Okay. Go see your son. Be his father. I'll hold down the fort. Don't work too hard. No promises. Nathan got out, grabbed his bag, turned back. Elena. Go. You're going to miss your flight. He went. Through security, to the gate, onto a plane that felt like a time machine carrying him back to a life he'd left behind. Connecticut was green and manicured, and everything Nebraska wasn't. Nathan rented a car and drove to his ex-wife's house, a place he'd bought but never lived in a neighborhood full of families he didn't know. Evan was in the driveway shooting baskets. He'd grown. How had Nathan not noticed how much he'd grown? Dad! Evan dropped the ball and ran. Nathan caught him, lifted him, held on tight. Hey, buddy, miss me? You're here. Mom said you might not make it. I always make it. Which was a lie, and they both knew it. But Evan was 7 and wanted to believe his father, so he smiled and dragged Nathan toward the house. Nathan's ex-wife, Jennifer, though he'd started thinking of her as just Jen years ago, stood on the porch. She'd remarried last year. Nice guy. Accountant, present. Everything Nathan hadn't been. You look different, she said. Different how? Tan, thinner, less... She searched for the word. Less polished. I've been working outdoors. On a farm. On a farm. She studied him. You're serious about this? Yeah. For how long? I don't know. As long as it takes. That's not an answer, Nathan. Evan needs stability. Needs to know if his father's going to be in Nebraska or New York or somewhere else next month. I'll be in Nebraska, but I'll be here for him too. Weekends, holidays, whenever he needs me. That's what you said before. I mean it this time, Jen sighed. I hope so. Because he's been talking about you nonstop since I told him you were coming. Built this whole story in his head about his dad, the farmer. Nathan looked at Evan playing in the yard. Maybe that's not such a bad story. Maybe not. But stories need endings, Nathan. Make sure yours is one he can live with. The game was Saturday afternoon. Little League, summer session, kids who could barely hit the ball, and parents who treated it like the World Series. Evan played second base and went 2 for 3 at the plate. Nathan cheered until his voice was raw. After the game, they got ice cream. Evan talked nonstop about school and friends and a science project about volcanoes. Nathan listened and realized he'd missed months of this, months of his son's life that he'd never get back. Dad? Evan said, chocolate ice cream on his chin. Are you going to come to my next game? If I can. But you're far away now, in Nebraska. Not that far. Few hours on a plane. But what if you can't come? What if the farm needs you? Nathan set down his ice cream, looked at his son. You need me more than the farm does. So yeah, I'll be at your next game, and the one after that, and every one I can make. Promise? Promise. Evan grinned. Cool. Can I come see the farm sometime? You want to? Yeah, Mom showed me pictures online. It looks awesome. Nathan felt something crack open in his chest. Then we'll make it happen. Maybe this summer. You can help with the harvest. Really? Really. They finished their ice cream and Nathan drove Evan home. Jen was waiting on the porch again. He had fun, Nathan said. Good. So did you, I think. Yeah. You're different, Nathan. I don't know if it's the farm or the distance or whatever you're running from, but you're more present than you've been in years. I'm not running from anything. I'm running towards something. What? I don't know yet, but it feels right in a way nothing has for a long time. Jen smiled. Then I'm glad. Evan needs a father who's present, even if it's only part-time, and you need something that makes you human again. Was I that bad? You were that lost. Nathan flew back Sunday evening. The plane descended into Nebraska flatland, and he felt something settle in his chest. Relief, like he was coming home instead of leaving it. Elena picked him up at the airport. She looked tired, dirt under her fingernails, hair pulled back in a knot that had given up halfway through the day. How was it? She asked. Good, really good. Evan wants to visit the farm. Yeah? This summer, maybe. Help with harvest. Elena smiled. I'd like that. Kid should see what his dad's doing out here. They drove back through the dark. Nathan told her about the game, about ice cream, about promising things he hoped he could deliver. Elena listened and didn't point out all the ways it could go wrong. Back at the farm, they walked the fields by moonlight. The corn was knee-high now, strong, healthy, fighting for every inch of growth. I finished the south planting while you were gone, Elena said, and started building the farm stand. You were supposed to rest. I did rest for like 4 hours. Then I got bored. Nathan looked at what she'd built, a simple wooden structure at the end of the driveway, rough but solid, room for produce displays and a cash box. It's perfect, he said. It's a start. Elena leaned against the structure. You were right, by the way, about doing both, being here and being a father. It's possible. You doubted me? I doubted it was sustainable. Still do, kind of, but seeing you happy about seeing your son, she trailed off. It made me realize something. What? That this doesn't have to be all or nothing. That we can build a life that includes the farm and family and everything else worth fighting for. Nathan moved closer. Is that what we're doing? Building a life? I think so, yeah. They stood in the moonlight looking at what they'd created. Not perfect, not finished, but real in a way that mattered. Thank you, Nathan said. For what? For not giving up on this place. For letting me be part of it. For teaching me that worth isn't measured in profit margins. Elena looked at him. You're getting sentimental. Maybe. It's weird. I know. She laughed, took his hand, squeezed once. Come on. Tomorrow we've got irrigation repairs and the chickens need feeding and about 1,000 other things that won't wait. Chickens? We have chickens? As of yesterday, diversifying income, remember? Eggs sell. Nathan followed her back to the house, shaking his head. You're insane. Takes one to know one. The weeks turned into months. Summer heat pressed down and they worked through it, learning the rhythm of the farm. The stand started selling, not much at first, but enough to prove the concept. People drove out from town to buy vegetables and eggs and hear the story of the farm that almost died but didn't. Elena handled the customers while Nathan handled logistics. They argued about everything, pricing strategy, expansion plans, whether to get goats. But they argued together, and somehow that made it work. In August, Evan came to visit. Jennifer brought him out and stayed for dinner, cautious but curious about this life Nathan had built. It's smaller than I expected, she said, looking around the farm. It's enough, Nathan replied. Evan loved everything, fed the chickens, learned to drive the tractor with Elena guiding him, got dirty in ways that would horrify his mother and didn't care. Nathan watched his son laugh and work and be present, and something that had been broken for years started to heal. On the last day of Evan's visit, they walked the fields at sunset. Dad, Evan said, are you going to stay here forever? I don't know about forever, but for a long time, yeah. What about New York? New York's where I used to live. This is where I live now. But what about your company? Nathan had been dreading this question. I sold most of it, kept a piece, enough to have input, but I'm not running it anymore. Why? Because it was making me miserable, and I was missing everything that mattered. Evan thought about this. Like my baseball games. Yeah, like that. I'm glad you came to my game. Me too, buddy. They walked in silence for a while. Then Evan said, Elena's nice. She is. Do you love her? Nathan stopped walking. What? Mom asked if you loved her. I told her I didn't know. And what do you think? Evan shrugged. I think maybe you do. You look at her the way Mom's husband looks at her. Nathan didn't know what to say to that. Didn't know if it was true, or if it was, what to do about it. It's complicated, he said finally. Adults always say that when they mean yes. When did you get so smart? I'm 7. That's basically grown up. Nathan laughed and pulled his son close. They stood in the field watching the sun drop below the horizon, painting everything gold. The bank review came in September. Jennifer Morrison returned, clipboard in hand, looking for evidence of progress. She found it. Crop yields up, operating expenses down, revenue diversified. The farm stand had brought in enough to cover 3 months of loan payments. I'm impressed, Jennifer said. You've exceeded projections. We got lucky, Elena replied. You worked hard. That's not luck. The approval came through that afternoon. 2 more years secured. The farm was safe. Nathan and Elena celebrated with beer on the porch. Same as that first night after the inspection, but different. They'd proven something. To the bank. To Marcus. To themselves. We did it, Elena said. We did. Couldn't have done it without you. Goes both ways. She leaned against his shoulder. He didn't move. They sat like that until the stars came out, neither wanting to break the moment. Nathan, Elena said quietly. Yeah? Evan's right about how you look at me. Nathan's heart kicked. He told you that? 7-year-olds have no filter. She straightened, turned to face him. So is he right? Nathan thought about lying, about deflecting, about all the ways this could complicate everything they'd built. Yeah, he said instead. He's right. Elena smiled. Not surprised. Not uncertain. Just pleased. Good. Because he's right about how I look at you too. Yeah? Yeah. They kissed. Slow and careful and inevitable, like it had been waiting to happen since the day Nathan's truck died and Elena pointed a wrench at a broken tractor. When they pulled apart, Nathan said, This changes things. Does it? Doesn't it? I don't know. We're already partners. Already building a life together. This just makes it official. That simple? Nothing's simple, but maybe we stop pretending it has to be complicated. Nathan laughed. When did you get so wise? Somewhere between bankruptcy and saving the farm. Perspective changes you. They sat together on the porch until midnight, talking about the future, about Evan visiting more often, about expanding the farm stand, about maybe, eventually, building something permanent. It wouldn't be easy. Long distance with his son, the constant pressure of making the farm work, the risk that it could all still fail. But for the first time in his life, Nathan was okay with that. Because the work mattered, the people mattered, the choice to stay and fight instead of running mattered. He'd spent 20 years chasing success and found nothing but emptiness. Now he'd found purpose in dirt and struggle, and a woman who saw him as just Nathan. That was enough. More than enough. Winter came. They prepared the farm for dormancy, securing equipment and planning for spring. Nathan flew to Connecticut twice a month to see Evan, started therapy to figure out how to be a present father from a distance. It was hard. Some weeks he wanted to quit, move back, make it easier on everyone. But Elena would talk him down, remind him that hard wasn't the same as wrong, that Evan needed a father who was happy more than one, who was simply present. In December, Marcus showed up unannounced. Nathan saw him coming up the drive and met him in the yard. Elena came out of the barn, wrench in hand, ready for a fight. Relax, Marcus said, hands up. I'm not here to cause trouble. Then why are you here? Elena asked. To admit when I'm wrong. He looked at the farm, at the improvements, at the farm stand that was closed for winter but already had spring reservations from restaurants in town. You did it, against every odd, every obstacle. You made this work. We're not out of the woods yet, Nathan said. No, but you're on solid ground, and that's more than most can say. Marcus turned to Elena. Your father would be proud. Elena's expression softened, just a fraction. You didn't know my father well enough to know what would make him proud.
Maybe not. But I know farming. And what you've built here, what you've fought for, that takes something most people don't have. Is there a point to this? Nathan asked.
The point is, I'm done. Done trying to take this land, done sabotaging, done being the villain in your story. Marcus pulled an envelope from his pocket, handed it to Elena. Water rights? Fair market value. Offers good for 60 days. Elena opened the envelope, stared at the number. This is 3 times what you offered before. Before, I was trying to steal it. Now I'm trying to buy it honestly. Marcus looked between them. You've earned that much. Elena folded the envelope. I'll think about it. That's all I ask. Marcus left. Nathan and Elena stood in the yard watching his truck disappear. You gonna sell? Nathan asked. I don't know. It's a lot of money. Could expand operations, build that processing facility my dad wanted. Or you could tell him to go to hell and keep what your father died protecting. Elena smiled. I like option 2. Me too. They burned the offer that night, watched it turn to ash in the fireplace while drinking whiskey and talking about spring planting. You know what I realized? Elena said. What? That land's not worth anything if you sell it. It's only worth something if you keep it, if you fight for it, if you build a life on it. She looked at Nathan. My dad understood that. Took me 2 years to figure it out. You figured it out when it mattered. With help. We helped each other. Elena raised her glass. To helping each other. Nathan clinked his glass against hers. And to second chances. And to broken trucks on dirt roads. And to stubborn women with wrenches. They drank and laughed and made plans for a future that was uncertain, but theirs. Spring came. Evan visited for 2 weeks and helped with planting. He learned to identify seedlings and check soil pH and drive the tractor in straight lines. Nathan watched his son work beside Elena and saw something he'd never seen before, his past and his future coming together. On Evan's last night, they sat on the porch eating the dinner Elena had made. Chicken and vegetables from their own farm, bread from the bakery in town that now bought their eggs. Dad, Evan said, can I come back this summer? You want to? Yeah, this is way better than camp. Nathan looked at Elena. She nodded. Then yeah, Nathan said. Every summer, as long as you want. Evan grinned, went back to eating, happy in the way only kids can be when the world makes sense. That night, after Evan was asleep in the guest room, Nathan and Elena sat in the yard looking at the stars. You're good with him, Elena said. I'm learning. We both are. Learning to build something that lasts. Nathan took her hand. Think we'll make it? I think we'll try. That's all anyone can do. They sat in the darkness listening to the land breathe, the corn growing, the earth settling, the sound of a life being built slowly and imperfectly and real. Nathan thought about the man he'd been, the one who drove away from New York in a broken truck looking for nothing because everything felt empty. That man wouldn't recognize who he'd become, wouldn't understand how dirt and struggle could mean more than corner offices and profit margins. But that man was gone, left behind on a dirt road where a different man was born, one who understood that worth wasn't measured in dollars, that success wasn't about winning, that the only thing that mattered was showing up and fighting and building something worth keeping. He'd found that on Elena's farm, in her stubborn refusal to quit, in the choice to stay when leaving was easier, in the understanding that some things were worth more than they'd ever cost. The farm would keep demanding everything they had. The work would never stop. Marcus might come back someday with another offer. The bank would keep watching. Evan would grow up and Nathan would miss pieces of it because he was here instead of there. But right now, sitting in the dark with Elena's hand in his, looking at land they'd saved together, Nathan knew he'd made the right choice. Not because it was easy, not because it was certain, but because it was real. And real was enough, more than enough. It was everything.